Multiplying fractions. First, we're going to begin with shading a model to show the product of two fractions being multiplied. So looking here, we have 2/5 multiplied by 3/4. If you look, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. And going across, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So since 5 is our denominator here and 4 is our denominator here, the 2/5, 5, will indicate that we're going to need to go across with these 5 columns. The 3/4, with 4 being the denominator, will indicate that we need these 4 rows here. So first we're going to show 2/5. Since there are 5 columns, we're going to need to shade 2 out of the 5. So I'm going to use the highlighter pen to show 2/5 of those rows being, or I'm sorry, those columns being shaded. So 2/5, 1/5, 2/5, and then there are 3, 4, and 5. Those won't be shaded because we only need 2 of those fifths shaded. Next, we're going to shade 3 out of the 4 rows. So if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, we only need to shade in 3 of them. So we're going to shade in 3 of the rows to show 3/4. Now once we've done that, what we do is we count the squares that show us which have both shadings in it. And that would be this part right here in which both yellow and pink were shaded. So that leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 squares are shaded out of how many squares are all together? Well, there's 5 going this way and 4 going this way. That's 5 times 4, which is 20. So 2/5 times 3/4 is 6/20. Now 6/20 is not in lowest terms, so we need to reduce this fraction of 6/20 down to lowest terms. So both 6 and 20 can be divided by 2. That's the least common multiple that they, or greatest common factor they can both be divided by. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. 3 and 10 are in lowest terms. We know we can't divide anymore. So 2/5 times 3/4 is 3/10. Let's try this next problem. 3/10 times 4/6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. So 3/10, since 10 is our denominator, we'll make this side of the model 3/10, and then 4/6, since 6 is our denominator, we'll use the 6 rows or this side to represent 4/6. So 3 out of the 10 columns are going to need to be shaded. So I'm going to shade in 3/10, 2, 3. So 3 of these are now shaded. Next, I'm going to shade in 4 out of the 6 rows to show 4/6. So and you need to shade in the whole row, or when you're doing the columns, you need to shade in the whole columns. Otherwise, you're not showing the correct amount. Then we have, this is going to show us 4/6. So 4 out of the 6 rows are going to be shaded now. So here we have 4/6 shaded. Now where the squares are that are sharing both colors would be right here in this section here. And then that is 4, or 3 by 4, 3 times 4, there's 12 altogether. And if we have 10 going this way and 6 going this way, that's 10 times 6, which is 60. So 12/60. Now 12/60 can be reduced. Now let me find the greatest common factor they both share. Well, I know that 12 can divide into 60 evenly, so 12 will probably be the greatest common factor we need to reduce. So 12 divided by 12 is 1, and 60 divided by 12 is 5. So 1/5 is the answer to 3/10 minus or times 4/6. Has anybody realized what we're doing? You should. Basically what we're doing is multiplying the numerators and then multiplying the denominators to get our answer and our product, and then we reduce. So now that we do that, we don't always need to draw models and shade them to help us with multiplication of fractions. We just multiply and reduce. So let's use what we know. Let's multiply these numerators and we get 24. Multiply these denominators, we get 36. So 24/36 is, we can reduce because they're both 24 and 36 are both divisible by 12. So 24 divided by 12 is 2, and 36 divided by 12 is 3. So 3/4 times 8/9 is 2/3. Multiply the numerators. 4 times 5 is 20. Multiply the denominators. 10 times 12 is 120. And now we're going to reduce. Now something you can do is, since these both have zeros, if we cancel them out, that will make reducing much easier. So what we have left over is 2/12. So if we look, the greatest common factor that both 2 and 12 share are 2, because the only factors of 2 are 1 and 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So answer is 1/6. Now finally, we have 1/6 times 6/7. So we're going to multiply the numerators, 1 and 6, and we get 6. And multiply the denominators. 6 times 7 is 42. And I know both 6 and 42 can be divided by 6. So we'll do 6 divided by 6 to get 1, and 42 divided by 6 to get 7. Now, did you notice that that middle problem was a little more difficult if you didn't know the strategy of canceling out the zeros, which I just taught you now? There is another quick, efficient way to reduce before we get to our final answer. Let me show you how we do that. I'm going to look at the numerator 4, and I'm going to say to myself, is there a factor that 4 and 10 can be divided by, or 4 and 12 even? Oh yes, 4 and 12 can both be divided by 4. So if I did that, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So I just made this 4 become a 1 and this 12 become a 3 by dividing both by 4. Now I'm going to look at 10 and 5. They both can be divided by 5. So 5 divided by 5 becomes 1, and 10 divided by 5 becomes 2. Now what I have left over is 1/2 times 1/3. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 3 is 6. Look at that. I didn't even need to do these extra steps like I did in another problem. If you don't understand how to use this strategy, that's okay. If this one's easier, please use this one. You'll eventually get to using this when you're working with larger numbers, greater numbers in the fraction parts. So this is basically the quickest, easiest way to multiply fractions.